Yo, I had this crazy idea in mind that I would do Pokemon illustration starting with the first three starters, of course. And this is the Bulbasaur evolution line for you guys. And I'll explain to you how I did this, what I had in my mind while I was drawing this illustration. As you can see, I wrote down the story because the story is the most important part of the illustration. So without the story, the illustration doesn't have any meaning. So the story can be as small as, a person walking to the grocery store, or maybe as complex as a whole comics with the background of the character, etc., etc. So after that, I started doing some doodles of bulbasaur, ivysaur, and then venusaur in various poses because I wanted to get a feel for the characters. It's kind of very sloppy because I'm not that good in drawing animals. So, and these are basically rough sketches, etc. But then I moved on to the actual scene of the illustration and doing some rough blockouts to get an idea and feel for the scene. Okay, then you can see me mapping out the perspective of the scene and then drawing the biggest character, which is venusaur in this case. And then pretty much everything I went on and put everything into the scene, including the character. You can see that the character, I changed the character's pose and the face like three times over the course of this time lapse. And now I did some refining. But yeah, on the story part, let me go back to what I was saying about the story. So the story is very important because it holds the illustration together. So without the story, the illustration has no meaning. The story is like it's like 50% of the work done in the story. If you don't have a story, or if you don't have a pre-planned sort of idea in mind, then you might get lost while drawing the illustration. For example, I planned everything beforehand before actually jotting down everything on the paper. So that is what the story is for. Okay, so now you can see me more refining the characters with a refined sketch, and we will shortly move on to color. I like to refine everything because then I know where to put the colors, where they belong, because a rough illustration can often lead to many coloring mistakes. Unnecessary extra time gets involved in an unfinished sketch. Hey, before moving on to the next section, I wanted you to know that I also do have a Patreon where you can support me with for as low as $1 a month. I already have like 2 Patreons, so your support will be greatly appreciated so that I can continue doing this, and you can get all my brushes. The brushes are the crown jewel of every artist out there, so and you need my brushes because then you cannot do god tier art. Hey, if you want to commission me, you can DM me on any of my socials, be it on Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter, and just leave a message and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. Okay, on with the video. Okay, so now moving on to the color, I start with blocking out the flat colors, and I have this lighting in mind where the sun is shining on the character from the right side. Okay, and the shadow on the character is like character is halfway lit by the sun and halfway into the shadow. That will create a dynamic lighting scenario. Now you see me blocking out all the flat colors of the characters so that I can select all the colors and then render them separately. That is pretty much the simplest workflow that I've found. I used to do direct color and direct rendering before, but then it gets very complicated and very messy sometimes. So nowadays I like to keep everything clean and then apply some chaotic things over on top. Okay, now you see me blocking out the shadows, the main shadows. The character shadows were actually kind of difficult because this was kind of my first time doing a tree shadow. Basically, this was my first time doing a tree shadow, so it was kind of difficult. Now you see me blocking out the background again because I thought that the previous background was too stiff. So what I did was I just went crazy on the background to make it feel more into the scene with the characters. Okay, now it's all just rendering. It's just rendering. I will explain the rendering stuff in another video, like how I do it, because this is like very complicated stuff. It basically, painting is a puzzle. You put the pieces into the right spot and then it all comes together. I'm rendering some materials on the clothes, like which give them a specific property. Like the reflections are what matters, because the materials is what makes the clothes, seem like the way they are. Like for example, something is metallic, then it should have a lot of reflection, and something like clothing should have less reflectivity. So it's the reflectivity that defines the material. Adding some grass so that the characters could merge well together. Then finally adding some skylights so that there are some color vibrations going on, and finally retouching the piece. And I guess there you have it. If you like my stuff, then please leave a like and subscribe and share it with your friends and family. And yeah, I'll see you in the next video. Bye.